Howdy, folks. Have you ever heard a thing called the Overton window? Well, let's just say that it's used by politicians and propaganda specialists, PR specialists, to move the agenda into their narrative. So, if you want to find out if you might be affected by this, stay tuned, and we're going to find out exactly what it is. Hi, my name is Jay Scott, aka Crypto Cowboy, and I'm the co-founder of Freedom Life 3.0, where we help people take their freedom life back by focusing on radical health and by investing in hard assets that are outside of the traditional system, like cryptocurrencies, precious metals, and even real estate. All right, so the Overton window. Well, it's a political theory that was created by this guy named Joseph Overton. And back in the 1990s, he proposed this window. And the way it works is if the public has an opinion that is about 50-50, so we would say something like the majority of the people in the US have this opinion. That's sort of a window. Because anything outside of that, anything to the left of that or to the right of that, that's going to fall outside of this window. And so PR firms and propaganda specialists, they've been using this for decades, this concept of basically how can you shift this Overton window or public opinion one way or the other without the other side going crazy or just completely rejecting the idea. So what we do here is they've got to move public opinion slowly so most people don't even know that it's happening. And the way they do this, let's use an example of like immigration in the United States. So let's assume for the moment that the majority of people in America were okay with the current policy of immigration. And so you always had people on the extreme sides, but the majority were fine with whatever that might be, whatever the policy might be. Okay, so then you have the people on the right that are saying they would like to shift that more to the right because they believe there should be tighter border security and less immigrants in. And you've got people to the left, they're going to want maybe even more open borders, more immigrants to be able to come in. So each side is going to want to shift public opinion towards what they want, right? That shifting is this Overton window. So let's say, for example, that politically minded on the right would want to close the borders down. They would say, what we want to do is we want to put armed guards on all of the borders. We want to have attack dogs, and we're going to shoot anybody that we catch illegally crossing the borders. Okay, so that's outrageous. That, we wouldn't really go for that, but it's an extreme example of trying to shift the Overton window by an extreme opinion, an extreme idea. And they would trot out all of their pundits and they would be talking on TV and they'd be in all the newspapers. And this may go on for weeks, maybe even months, and they would be pushing this radical agenda. Of course, the left would be opposed to it, and they'd be also coming back and debating this, on TV and in the papers, online papers, about what, how outrageous this is or whatever side wants to get their point across, right? And so what happens then is that they fall back and they say, okay, well, I'll negotiate, and okay, well, we won't have attack dogs and shoot people, but we want the borders tighter. We want less immigrants to be able to get in. And the left would say, okay, that sounds good. And public opinion would then shift a little bit to the right. It wouldn't have shifted radically or a lot, but just a little bit. So this is a tactic that's been used by PR specialists, propaganda specialists, politicians for decades to persuade people to come to your side. So you've got this extreme view, and it desensitizes them to them come back to an area that you're happy with anyways. And this may go on, again, it shifts. If you've got the power and you can shift it a little bit right or shift a little bit more, you're trying to push it. And literally in America, since we have 4-year, term limits, potentially 8, it doesn't, it moves back and forth within those 4 to 8 years quite often, right? So it's just a tactic used. So who cares about this? Why am I even bringing up, why should I care? Well, because we're the ones that are being manipulated. We're being persuaded. And this is happening all the time. And we don't really understand it. We don't see it. So one is to be aware of this, that this happens all the time with all the issues. But one issue in particular that really pisses me off is when the World Economic Forum came out and they said, in the future, you're going to own nothing and you're going to be happy. What? No, I don't think I'm going to be happy. And I was outraged by this. And I know a lot of people that still are. And they're really pushing back on the World Economic Forum for having that. And then I realized when I learned about the Overton window, I thought, oh, that's what this is. They're desensitizing us. They're saying we're going to own nothing and we're going to love it. And of course, it outraged people. And now what's happening is it's being negotiated slowly back and forth. And from what I can see is we're already starting to lose some of our property rights, right? So the global elite, the power mongers, they don't want us to have individual wealth. They don't want us to have individual property ownership because we know that property ownership is one of the best ways to wealth. No, they want to control the wealth. So they are shifting that Overton window. They've got the extreme version out there that we're going to own nothing and like it. And eventually what's happening now is that home prices are going up higher. And people are like, I can't afford to buy a house, so I've got to rent. That's becoming more natural. And as the years go on and more people have to rent, that's us losing our property rights. And it was done slowly. And most people think, oh, it's because of the economy or because of the Fed or whatever. Well, obviously, there are parts of that. But ultimately, that agenda is moving closer to what the World Economic Forum wants. And we can't let that happen because as that's happening now, the next thing they're going to go for is cars. No more owning cars. You got to rent cars or just have robo-taxis or some AI taxi kind of thing. That's what they're shooting for. Next, they're going to come for our assets. No more gold and silver. Come for your real estate. You know, not only can you not own it to live in, but you can't even own it as an investor. And of course, they want to confiscate potentially our stocks and our bonds. If a world financial catastrophe happens, they've already got the laws set up that they can confiscate our assets in our brokerage firms. Look up the Great Taking, folks. That's actually happening. So we need to be aware of this. So that's the first solution to this, is be aware that what's happening. And then the second solution is, in my opinion, we need to be investing in hard assets. Things like cryptocurrencies, things like real estate, precious metals. Those will be the hardest for them to confiscate. So even though housing prices are going up, there are investors out there that can own real estate and provide rentals for people. It's a great way to accumulate wealth. It's a great way to gain on the appreciation. It's a good tax diversion, tax write-off. And so real estate's a great way to build wealth. Cryptocurrencies, outside of the traditional financial system, it's a great way to build wealth because the rate of returns are much higher in cryptocurrencies, and they're harder for them to confiscate if the global elite, the governments, want to then, again, take our property rights and take our wealth away. So anyways, if you learned something new in this video, if you learned about this Overton window, if you'd like to know more information about that, drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about this concept. If you agree or disagree, if you've got some examples of this already happening, drop me a comment. I would love to see it. If you know anybody that would like this video, share it. And of course, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can get more videos like this. So until next time, we'll see you. Bye.